ABC Capricornia.
Your local ABC.
From a long line of graziers, Springshore's Paul Martin has bucked the family tradition to start farming a new lucrative livestock. Wild camels are being brought to a dairy that Martin and his business partners have set up outside of Brisbane to be milked. The health benefits of camel milk are wide-ranging and the demand for the product is soaring both locally and overseas. Whilst it's early days for this dairy, which only started producing milk in November last year, its future certainly looks bright. Founder and director of the Wild Camel Corporation, Paul Martin, joins me on the line this morning. Hello, Paul.
Good morning, Lisa. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for chatting to me this morning. I know I will make mention you're at a rowing regatta. Your daughter's there rowing, so we might hear some background noise.
Yes, no, it's all good.
Now, Paul, it's a pretty significant jump from cattle to camels. Tell us how it's all come about.
Myself and Jeff Flood, my partner, basically were looking at various agricultural products that people were chasing around the world, and so in SNC Agri, and camel milk certainly was one of those that isn't produced sort of commercially in this country anyway, and we've sort of got the dominant position with the most amount of camels around and available and feed resources. So with the demand for that product, we put together the Australian Wild Camel Corporation.
Now, you are dealing with wild camels. Where do you source them from?
Queensland and Central Australia. Freight's the biggest limitation, obviously, from the Northern Territory and out in the desert where they certainly are plentiful. There's certainly enough in Queensland that have been brought over here for various weed controls and everything that are available.
Tell us about that for a moment. Obviously, camels aren't native to Australia. How do we end up with a wild camel population?
Basically, they were let go, I suppose, after the war, once mechanisation and vehicles were used, and they were brought over here from basically India and Pakistan for milk and meat and transporting heavy loads. So the genetics that were selected back then were optimal for exactly what we need, and we've just got to genetically reselect those because they've been obviously go since then. So there's no one done any real genetic work since then. So it's about locating those good milking genes in the ones we have.
And Paul, you're taking them from the wild. Are they difficult to handle?
It's certainly, Hannah and Evan, our partners in Australian Wild Camel Corporation that do the training and breaking in. It certainly, we've done a lot of different methods, and certainly getting the ones that are probably handled minimally is better, because they haven't sort of formed any habits that sort of pets might pick up, and sort of starting from scratch is certainly better. But they come to it really quickly. Obviously it's about methods of taking the stress off the animal and getting them to relax in a more domesticated situation.
So you're transporting them to your dairy, that's outside of Brisbane. What happens next?
Basically, we have about a 6-week training program, so they to enter the dairy. So obviously we're selecting camels that are either pregnant or have a calf on them, and we're sort of managing them to come into the system. So we have a monthly calving interval. So logistically challenging at the start until we get our numbers up, but they're basically 6 weeks training and then into the dairy being milked.
Now, it might seem like a funny question, but how do you milk a camel?
Well, we just use a bigger stool, but
good answer, Paul.
Yeah, they've got 4 teeth like a cow, and they're basically the same. They use the same mechanisms, the same electronic milking devices. Herringbone, you can't go through the back legs like a dairy cow, so the infrastructure's more side-on or 45 degrees like your herringbone design.
And dairy cows, they have to be milked twice a day. So is it the same for camels?
We're trialling that. We're now doing two a day. Logistically and staff requirements don't really lean towards 3 a day in Australia economically, but we're certainly doing some testing. Our science department are working on and nutrition, because there are some research that says that 3 times a day just keeps the milk flowing, but certainly 2 a day is hitting our targets at the moment.
You're listening to ABC Capricornia. Lisa Ritchie in the chair this morning. My guest is Paul Martin, and we're talking about camel milking. So, Paul, let's talk about the milk for a moment. What does it look like and how does it taste?
White. Certainly, it's a naturally homogenised product, so fat doesn't float to the surface like cow's milk. Taste-wise, off a normal sort of a dairy diet that we're using, it's you wouldn't tell the difference between it and cow's milk. If in selection processes, kids are probably selecting it over other milks because it does have a tinge of salt, a salty flavour, which can be a little bit sweeter for kids. But if served up cold, you wouldn't tell the difference.
That's incredible. Now, I was looking on your website and it discusses the health benefits. They are large in number. There are so many health benefits from camel milk. And for me, the most interesting was that it improves the cognitive function of autistic children. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, generally it's about the gut health, I suppose, which has come a little bit more trendy now at the moment with people getting their gut health right, and then basically helping a lot of those things like insulin, eczema, autism. There's a lot more research needs to be done on that, where we will put a lot more science around that. So certainly the alternative health treatment industry is certainly touting its benefits, and certainly things like chemo recovery, which is about rebuilding that immune system in the body and how the body reacts to having a good healthy gut.
So are you guys linking with somebody to do the science?
Yes, we got a science department. Gus has started up so we formed under SNC Agri with Biovate as well, which is a research and development company based around different technologies and taking different products forward, from the milk and in agriculture in general.
So you're hoping to operate a large dairy of around 3,500 camels. You're currently at stage 1 of your plan. When do you expect to be fully operational, Paul?
We should be, within 2 years, we should be hitting those targets. We basically have broken the project down into small steps. Part of that is in our desperation to draw funding from Australia rather than overseas. We really wanted to link in with local investors. So we broke the project down to basically 3 steps of fundraising, which was $700,000, $5 million, and then a $70 million project at the end. So it's allowed us to go around the local areas and get sort of small Australians just to be able to have access to a play like this, which has a lot of social benefits as well.
And Paul, where does the greatest demand for camel milk come from? Is it in the Middle East overseas, or the Australian market's doing well? I'm reading that it's doing really well as also.
Certainly, I mean, obviously educated markets. Europe's probably the highest demand. They pull a lot from the UAE now in the 3,500 head dairies that exist in the UAE, but most of it comes out as powder, and there's the varying markets are obviously fresh milk, powder, cosmetics, and cheeses. So it's certainly we can never produce enough in Australia to flood the current demand.
And Paul, you essentially will focus on the camel milk, but will you have plans for any other byproducts?
Oh, definitely. The milk is probably our flagship to connect people to the product and the market. At the moment, we're starting off with a cosmetic line. It takes a little while to develop your safe foods and distribution of fresh products. So we're starting with cosmetics. We'll go into fresh milk, but powder offers, there's a huge demand in chocolate around the world, and certainly, we're going to work on a range of products, obviously, that'll go all around the place, and powder certainly works well for our bigger dairy because it takes out the freight component of water.
Well, I wish you and everyone involved in your organisation a successful year ahead. It's a fascinating project, and I guess we'll be speaking to you down the track when things progress a little bit more.
Yes, thanks, Lisa, and thanks for your time.
And thank you for your time this morning. Go back now and enjoy your daughter's rowing comp there.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. That was founder and director of the Wild Camel Corporation, Paul Martin. And if you'd like to know more about the organisation and its products, you can find them on Facebook at www.facebook.com/camels for drought, or you can head to their website. It's www.wildcamelcorp.com.au.
This is ABC Capricornia.